Hi friends, you got Renee here at Mold Mending. Sorry about the voice, I've got a little cold here. But I remember being on the other side of illness. I didn't know how to select a safe meal for someone who was going to be passing through our state and just stopping by. And several of her family members had food allergies. At the time I was eating anything. I was eating pastas, I was eating meat, potatoes, you name it. I hadn't seen a specialist yet, but when I heard of her family's limits and they were passing through, I wanted to make them a meal, but I'm telling you, it was a challenge. It's the only thing I could come up with was the only thing that doesn't have ingredients is something with one ingredient, and all I could come up with was raspberries and blueberries, or apples, and I'm like, that's not a meal for anybody with a bunch of allergies. People need to eat. And I had no idea what I could make for them. So I humbled myself and finally decided, instead of letting the challenge feel like a failure in the challenge because I couldn't come up with something safe, I just reached out and asked her, what is an idea or something that I can make for you? Because I wasn't a big cook. On top of that, and like I said, I didn't make things that were healthy at the time either, as healthy as I could have been making for someone. And the fact that she's bringing her kids, herself, and knowing that there's reactions that can happen with food, I was a little nervous. And I even remember phone calls, with her when she was at the grocery store, and she would pass the food to her kids to read ingredients of, and if the kids couldn't pronounce something or it had more than 3 ingredients, they put it back on the shelf. So I learned a lot from her in my early years, before I started crossing the same path of having the food intolerance and all that good stuff. One family member had a corn allergy, several of them had gluten allergies, and then there were some other ingredients that, you just can't throw any spice in and it'd be fine. So I had to make sure I wasn't going to make anybody sick coming and me making this meal. But I really wanted to be hospitable and I wanted to make that meal. So she did give me some ideas. We did have a great meal, and it all worked out. Now the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I just did a message about a person with chronic illness and mold illness preparing for Thanksgiving, and that's thinking ahead of, staying out of a moldy building, choosing foods ahead of time that are safe for you to eat so that when you arrive, you're either bringing it or someone else might be providing that for you. But I wanted to talk about that little piece right there a little more, of being the person providing for a person who has a chronic illness or celiac disease, or like us, mold illness, and has a candida issue. I want to talk to you folks in this message, especially the support person or the friend of someone with this illness and who has food limitations. I will be honest, it is very disappointing to find nothing but carrots on a veggie tray when I go to events, when I've gone to Thanksgiving, when I've gone to birthday parties. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I'm not blaming others for not serving me. I'm not poo-pooing that. But what I am saying is, as a person that has food limitations, to walk into a restaurant and find out there's nothing that I can eat but drink their water and ask for a lemon, that can be, at the beginning, we'll just say a disappointing experience. And then to go to someone's home and there's this huge spread, this potluck, all these wonderful looking things, the smells, but to find out you with the limitations, because you can't have sugar, you can't have certain spices and such, you get to have the carrot off of the veggie tray. It gets old. So if you are someone who cares for a person with food or location limitations, please be patient with them. Please be considerate of them. Please be flexible with them. Be gracious and consider their needs, please. And you could be the one to help make it a more delightful day for them versus one that's disappointing and even dreaded. And maybe you can even help them plan a meal, or you can offer to make either their whole meal or a piece of the meal so they're not having to do all this extra work just to be able to come to an event. I'll be honest, that's what I do. I always have to pre-prep when I go places. It's just a choice I've made because I've been disappointed enough going to houses and finding out folks have added seasonings that I can't have. So I have just found I don't ask others to do it, I just do it for myself. And I'm always the one with that lunch bag that I carry around. But you being that support person, one tip that I can give is ask your friend who has the special diet with limitations. Um, Ask them to give you their specific needs list. Like, what is their list of allowable foods? And it's a very specific list. Ask them to make that out for you, and they can hand it to you. And then this way, they and you avoid being disappointed and can be assured that they can eat something when they arrive at your place if you're going to choose to make a meal for them. The saddest thing is a person that has chronic illness and food limits to give you that list of approved items to show up at your house and you go and make something else. Or you make it but you add things that aren't on the approved list. And then they feel, I'll be honest, they either refrain. We have two choices. We either eat it, get sick from it, have a reaction because of ingredients that are not approved, or we refrain from it, and then we have to figure out an alternative way to eat and get our nutrition for that evening or that day. And that has happened to me where I have given my list. People assured me that they were going to lavishly love me that way with their meals, and I show up and I'm being served food that's not even on the list. It's not even approved, that I'm no longer eating because of what it was doing to me. And it was an item not on the list. So please do not give people like myself with a chronic illness, with a food limitation, with celiac disease, who they have inflammation from a lot of foods, just a person that has a special list and a limitations of food, please be as serious as they are, or even more serious, because you can help coach them to make good decisions. And you don't want to give them false hopes by saying and asking for that approved list, but then it's not followed through. It makes it hard for us to trust again. And if they ate something previously that you prepared, still recheck in with them the next time you plan to cook for them again, and ask them if there's anything you could do different. Because sometimes I have gone places, and at one time I would be eating fish, a certain kind of fish, and then as I was finding out I was getting allergic to it, I had to switch it up, you know. Same thing with like chicken. There was a time when I was eating just any kind of chicken from the grocery store. Well, I can't eat just any kind of chicken anymore from the grocery store. It has to be a certain kind of pasture raised, a grass and vegetarian kind of fed meal, and then I'm not having the reaction with the itchy eyes at night or the stomach aches. But previously, that's what friends would make for me. And then ask if they did have any reactions the last time they ate that certain food, or you could ask, is there a way I can improve it, such as like the fish. I've improved the type of fish that I eat. Before it was just anything not from China kind of thing, and then I realized, oh my gosh, now there's certain fish that have coloring in it. It's got some of them carbon monoxide for preservatives. There's so many things in meats now that I didn't realize when I first started this that are unhealthy. So now I only eat wild caught, without the coloring, without all the additives of fish. And there's only certain fish that I eat now as well, because of my body feels best after eating those certain things. So even check, like with the meats, are they eating certain grass-fed? Are they eating certain organic vegetables? Is there a certain brand they prefer? You can get all the way down to that kind of nitty-gritty, you know. and even ask them, certain stores that they prefer the food to come from. Like for me, I can have a cassava chip, but only one kind. I can't just have any kind of cassava chip that's out there. So just trying to throw that out at you guys who are the support person, and to help you be the encouragement to that person. Because I know that many of us out there, we want to serve those who some things are just tough because their body just makes them so tired with a chronic illness. Um, or it's just a bummer when you have celiac disease and you go to a party to find all these desserts, like a whole table of desserts at Thanksgiving, and you can't touch a thing of it. And in fact, you have to avoid that whole section of the house because there's gluten going on. So imagine the joy you could bring to someone if you ask them ahead of time what their specific, allowances are, and then you make them a delight, even if it's just a little cupcake or a mini cake for them. Imagine. And I had that happen. I'll just share this side of it. So, son, and it's my daughter, they were married in the military, and then a few years later, actually last year, they decided to do a big hoopla, that included the reception and all that. And the person that she had making the desserts, it was a beautiful dessert bar, but I had to avoid everything that was on there because of the sugars in it and different flours and all that. But she went above and beyond and took care of those with celiac, took care of those with all sorts of different, had to avoid corn, had to avoid sugar, and she even made me something specific with my needs and reached out to me for my list. And the day of the wedding, I actually was able to eat, and she actually special made it with blueberries and delivered it to me on a plate. Loved it. It was a lemon scone. And then at the end of the night, she came up to me and she gave me this package, and it ended up being 4 pieces of that dessert that I could have later. I'm telling you, I took that home and I froze it, and I forget what the word is, but I rationed it because it was so good. And I hadn't had somebody make such a good dessert for me yet. Um, so that was a delight. And then when I got up the courage, I asked her for the recipe, tried it, failed, and just kept trying it until I could get it close to what she did. But anyway, we just want to be that encouragement and be that person that just taps you on the shoulder and says, you know, you can do it. You can help that friend, and you can definitely make an impact with food. Believe it or not, foods that are safe. So just remember, we can be well even while ill, and you can help your friend be well even while they're ill by making them safe meals, safe foods, a safe dessert, a safe snack. It would mean the world to them.